wow, this background looks really, really fake. So today I'm talking about stressors, especially in the real estate investing world. And I wanted to just share some tips around how to handle those things, because mindset is key to this business. I've seen a lot of investors lose their minds, go down a downward spiral because they can't handle the stress well and can't build from that. Instead, they kind of go into a further dark corner of the universe. So this particular situation I want to describe today that happened recently was one of the properties that we own, a 14 unit. It ended up having $2,300 a month in the electricity. And that was for January and February. And I was like, the average, even year to year, is like $700 a month, maybe $800. So what is going on? And I could have been, that guy that gets angry and it berates the tenants. Like, how dare you? How dare every single one of you? Even though it's probably just a handful taking advantage of the kind of built-in utilities into the property and their apartment. And that's because of the just system itself. Each building has its own meter, and we haven't got to the place of separating meters out per apartment yet because we're not done with renovations. But getting back to the story, I could be really pissed off, but addressing that with the tenants in a unprofessional way just won't lead anywhere. It might have a temporary 1 or 2 month result, but instead it's better to have a proactive, respectful approach to how to handle this thing. So I also got to thinking, just instead of reacting, something I do in terms of mindset that everybody should do in the middle of stress is, take a breather. If you have to go to your car and lay down for a minute, put the recliner back, it's totally fine. That's what I've had to do with some big stressor moments in my investing career, especially even outside of investing. Listening to some piano music, listening to some ASMR, get some spine tingles going on YouTube. But, this particular case, I was able to just kind of think about it for 5 minutes. And then I relayed a message to my assistant saying, hey, send this email out to everybody that, hey, these last 2 months or beginning of the year months was unacceptable amounts of electricity. Some apartments are taking as much as a whole house. It doesn't make any sense because we only have 1 bedrooms and studio apartments there. So be mindful of that. Essentially what I said also was, we don't want to have to raise the rent, but we will because we are for profit. I didn't mention this part, like we're for profit, we're not a nonprofit, but that's kind of the gist of what we were saying in that email. What else did we consider? Even before I sent the email out too, I thought about what's the difference that's going on in the property too. Well, the winter has been running longer, so that's something else to consider too. Even in April now, we still have weather in the 40s. I think that's pretty non-standard for Atlanta. But what else? Another factor was we have a lot more occupancy now that we're largely done with renovations. So because of more occupancy, more people there, especially more people at home during winter, more work from home people, that's going to draw the bills up, more use, right? I also decided to think about the actual systems themselves. What could I take responsibility on for that? Essentially, we provided 1 oil-based heater, which is the most efficient type of heater, to each unit. But if you have a 1 bedroom, that's going to be running on high forever because even on eco mode, it's going to be trying to, fill up this space that's just too gigantic. Could maybe cover a living room or a bedroom, not past that. So that's something else to consider. Another thing is about maybe 2 or 3 units are still not fully renovated or updated. As some of you know, we've done, in some cases, full gut jobs to some units in this particular property. But this property was built or updated last, at a big state in the 70s. So they didn't even have proper insulation back then. So we have 2 or 3 apartments that still lack proper insulation. So any air, heat that goes in there is just kind of flowing outwards over time. So all these things to consider, right? Take responsibility, take ownership, like that Jocko Willink book says, taking extreme ownership, right? As opposed to, let me see how fast I could blame everybody else. And to go back to kind of the last, or that one of the first points I made, there's this ease, especially in this environment, to blame others and berate them. And, that might be, like I mentioned, there might be short-term benefit to that and antagonizing other people. But I was looking at a video on YouTube the other day about the Assyrian Empire. It was the first real major empire that I think grew to own about 7 countries. And in less than a century, they lost it all. And that's because they had this kind of hammer down approach of they would torture people in order to maintain loyalty. When they would take over a country, they would essentially have obscene amounts of torture. I think worse even than the Roman Empire. I believe this may have even been before the Roman Empire, so they might have gotten inspiration from them. But all these things, they might have short-term benefit, but they're just not going to last. You're going to have people having or being resentful, having resentment, being resentful, whichever one you want to choose. And that's just, you could lose your real estate empire in a matter of a short amount of time. In this case, it was 100 years for 7 countries to come down to just owning one city. And it's pretty awful. Even part of the equation for that coming down was between the north and southern kings of the Assyrian Empire. There were actually 2 brothers that inherited the kingdom, and the brother in the south ended up creating a coup essentially to try to take over the north. So that particular event wasn't successful, but it was on the path in those 100 years to breaking it all down, right? So it was just a matter of time before it all dwindled. So have all these things in mind when you're considering real estate investing or anything hard in life, even relationship, right? I always have respect for anybody that walks away when they're maybe having a difficult conversation, instead of saying something stupid that they'll regret, maybe just taking a breather and saying, hey, I just need to step away for a minute. And I'm starting to learn the value of that later in my years, as opposed to you and you and you and you. It's silly. So have an amazing weekend, and thanks for your time. Later.